Well, good afternoon. Currency recap time. Joe with you here. It's Thursday, the 9th of October. You guys know the drill. Just make sure you take responsibility for what you get. I'm going to get into the meaningful news of the day. We're going to take a look at the markets, where they're at currently, and if we've got trades to share, I will do it.
All trades and analysis in this video are intended for professional traders only. This content does not constitute financial advice and is for educational purposes. This video is being released after a short delay due to Compliance Department review. Maverick members receive this content immediately as part of their daily trading resources. If you're ready to level up, consider joining Maverick Currencies. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits. You bring the skill, we provide the backing. Let's get into today's market recap and see how the pros are trading the currency markets.
Moving into our market analysis, it was pretty much a quiet day when it comes to currencies, but a general sell-off when it comes to U.S. markets and some of the other things. So the U.S. markets did close lower. The U.S. dollar continues to gain. We got about 3 straight days of a pretty good push to the upside. The 10-year Treasury and the U.S. dollar were pretty much the only thing that was green on some of the majors that I follow along with. Oil was down, gold was down, and then currencies were pretty much sideways. Even a lot of the cryptos were down. In fact, they were all down about towards the end there, and I think Ethereum closed a little higher. Well, anyways, let's get into it here. So you could see the yen had a bounce. The yen was up about 0.27%, but that came after a pretty strong fall. We'll look at that chart in a second. U.S. dollar up another 0.5%. Franc, euro, pound, look at that, all pretty much flat across the board. Moving over to the others here, we got the S&P down another 0.25%. World index down, crypto down, gold with a pretty good drop, 1.6% there, and oil down as well. So just pretty much a sell-off across everything outside of that, the dollar. Here's the cryptos, Bitcoin, you can see in cash, Ethereum all down. Litecoin was down for a bit and had a little bit of a push towards the end there. So where are we sitting? Well, nothing's really changed. We just continue to have this push-pull in the market. And what we've been, what's really kind of thrown monkey wrenches into some of these strength and weakness comparisons when it comes to currency trading is these moves, gaps up and down. So if we continue to see these moves where we gap down and move up, here we gap up and move down, here's just every single day is some sort of a gap or retracement or gap and continuation. It does throw a lot of things off. So it causes a lot of volatility that we really can't use when it comes to trading, at least in the shorter term. Now, that doesn't mean you can't trade all and there's really nothing out there. It's just this kind of slow grind higher when it comes to the equity side of things. When it comes to the currency side of things, we've had one currency that's been pretty consistent overall, and that has been the U.S. dollar. So that's probably where I'm going to sit, at least in the shorter term. Let's get into some news here, some economic stuff. Still shut down here in the U.S. side of things, but we're really not getting much out of it anyways. A couple things that we made note of: the RBNZ rate statement after the expected or the cut. That has sent the Kiwi a little bit lower, but it's really not doing much. Like I say, we'll take a look at the chart here. USD, we had the FOMC meeting minutes. We have a Fed that's got a stance on being a little bit more reserved when they want to cut. It's imbalanced down the middle. There's a few that say we need a rate cut, a few that say maybe we should hold off. So a little bit of discord or disconnect when it comes to the Fed overall. Didn't seem to really have a big impact on the markets, but it continued to at least create some strength in the U.S. dollar. We're going to get the unemployment rate and change for the CAD tomorrow. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much all we got going for the rest of the week when it comes to economic news. Let's jump into our currency analysis and take a look at how we finished. Starting with the yen. You can see we're just kind of on this slow move continuing. It looks like it's kind of flattening out. I wanted to kind of keep this at a 0, but I really couldn't. It looks like it's kind of bouncing here. I just think it might meander and roll over very low on the RSI. So I'm going to keep that pretty standoffish for now. I'm going to keep it pretty defensive. I'm going to keep it at a -2. I do think that it might have an oversold bounce, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere in the shorter term. Moving over to the dollar, you can see it just kind of continues its move. It looks really good on the daily chart as well. Nice strong breakout, a little bit of a retracement towards the end of the day, but I like where this RSI is at. Continuing to stay up at these levels, a nice confirmed pivot and breakout to the upside. Easy for me to put as a +3 when it comes to today's momentum. Take a look at the Frank. Frank is kind of flattening. I wanted to see if I could keep it at a 0. A couple of things that made me a little bit reluctant to do that was a rollover off of kind of a head and shoulders in the shorter term. And it looks like it spilled below a little bit of a support level. So I'm going to give it a -1. The RSI does show a little weakness, but I do like how it's kind of up in this area where it could start to maybe move back and forth. So I'm just going to leave it as a -1 for now. Overall, folks, whatever you want to rate it, it's just something I'm not interested in pairing anything with for the time being. Jumping into the euro, more of a sideways trade, slightly lower. So I just gave it a -1. Really hasn't been doing much over the last few days. You could see the shadows up and down, keep it in its area, and the RSI kind of agrees, kind of a sit and wait and see what happens. Let's jump over to the pound. You can see it's pulling back from a pretty decent move to the upside. I kind of liked how it was behaving. Now, I don't really want to beat it too bad, but it did roll over below a support level here, and it did break this. It's very similar to what I see in the Franc, so I decided to give it a -1 for now. We did get the RSI to slide below that 50 point, but we'll see if that can maybe kind of flatten itself out, but for now, it's just kind of out of favor. Let's get over to the CAD, and you can see the CAD had a pretty good breakout, and it's just been high basing. I like where the RSI is here. It's a +1. You could go +2, folks, if you wanted to. I just like to see if it can kind of revisit these highs or stay where it's at. And I could easily maybe even bump that up to a +2, but I'd like to see it a little bit higher there. But it is showing a little bit more strength than the last few that we've looked at. Let's move to the Aussie. The Aussie is just in a pullback. I keep it as a +1. I like the push that it had. I mean, earlier today it was showing +3. Pretty good turn towards the end, but I like where it's sitting. So +2, if you guys are cool. I kept it as a +1 because it's in pullback mode. I like where the RSI is here, but it's a good sign of strength. Moving over to the Kiwi. The Kiwi has been more of a back and forth, a little bit more of a wider range. I imagine this was some of the rate cut and some of the conversation with that. But it seems like it's trying to settle. Now, if it could stay at this area, that would be something. I like where the RSI is showing a little bit of, hey, we're going to see if I can't pin myself there. But if this turns here, this could easily bump up to a +1. I kept it at a 0 just because this new range has been pretty wide, but I didn't want to. But I do want to see if it's going to get a little stronger before I pair it up with something. Let's jump into the cryptos. Cryptos have a couple of interesting patterns going on. Let's start with Bitcoin here. Now, Bitcoin I have at a 0. I want to see what it does at this level. Now, I was going to give it a -1 because it's at this 50 and it's sliding. So -1 or 0, that makes sense if you guys want to go that route. What I'm also saying is establish a flag pattern. So if these flag patterns can sometimes create, it could come all the way back here, a pretty substantial move to the upside. And if you take a look at these on the dailies, they are actually in corrective moves. So I couldn't really give it the -1, so I just kept it at a 0. Let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Now, Bitcoin Cash, I had no problem giving it a -1 because it's got a couple of stages. We've got 2 areas here where it's broken. It's broken a support level, and it's still sloping, and we're setting up another descending triangle. The RSI is already below this level. So I imagine I'd be a little bit more confident in this breaking a little bit further down before a massive surge to the upside. That being said, folks, cryptos move so fast, they're very difficult to do velocity sometimes. But for where it sits right now, I'm just going to keep it -1. Moving over to Ethereum. Ethereum is also showing a little bit of weakness, actually showing the most weakness out of the cryptos that we follow. It did break a pretty substantial support level here, and it broke it off of a lower high. Pretty good slide, a really anemic bounce so far, but a good drop off of the RSI, and it's flattening. So it was easy for me to move this to a -2. Definitely the weakest of the ones that we follow. And let's take a look at the strongest, which is Litecoin today. It was showing some signs of weakness, and then it kind of just turned around and decided to hold true. So I'm going to keep it at a 0. You could easily keep it, or I should say, you could justify this as a +1. It's just a flat RSI, but it is above 50. It shows some strength here. A good little push here to the end. I mean, if we could start to see this climb out, definitely I could bump that up to +1. So that's what I got when it comes to the velocity score of things, folks. The dollar just remains super strong. A little bounce back and forth when it comes to the Aussie with its bounce, the yen bouncing off the bottom, but not a lot to really go off of. Some of the cryptos are setting up some pretty interesting patterns. But when it comes to tradability, folks, the only thing that I have is anything that you want to pair to the dollar. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Dollar's been strong for a while. You could pair it up against whatever you want. We are seeing things that are pushing and pulling. It's hard because if the US dollar decides to go flat or pull back and we catch something on the opposite side, it'll probably flatten itself out and the trade really won't materialize. So I'm just going to sit here for a little bit and see what happens for the dollar. But if you're to make a trade, look to pair for something against the dollar. It's the strongest as of late. Selling across the board today, across the majors, oil, gold. Once again, the cryptos were going down till Litecoin had a little bit of a push towards the end. But very interesting. Market's still jumping around, a little bit more volatile. Play relative strength and weakness, pre-op position sizing, folks. If you can't find anything out there, just be patient. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.